Ben, one of the co-organisers of Digital Taunton. We're here today on our second meetup event, having come from a social event in a pub, effectively, with two people. The second event today having over 80 attendees.
We're essentially a new initiative set up to improve the digital sector for Taunton. We want Taunton to be the centre of digital innovation and collaboration in the Southwest.
You've got so much talent here, you don't need to go anywhere else.
Social media is changing massively now and in the next 6 to 12 months, and it's going to make a significant difference to how you use it.
We actually are engaging with students and with businesses with virtual reality. It is the future.
There's 2 seats at the front. Has everyone got a seat? Everyone all good for seats? There's a couple of seats still at the front if anyone's interested in a front row. Wow.
Hello. Okay, who was slightly confused there that we're actually in company, and all of you were in fact missing out on a secret get-together. I'm sure we might have caught one or two of people out. Hi, how you doing? We are live streaming on Digital Taunton on our YouTube channel. God, feels like I haven't done this in absolutely ages, and it's very, very strange coming to you properly from our home office, where I've been spending pretty much most of my life lately. So here we are. I'm actually joined with Jeremy and John, who's with me tonight, who's dialed in remotely. They're at home right now. So hey guys, how you doing?
Hey guys.
Hi.
Great to be back here, virtually anyway.
I mean, it's like we haven't really spoken about Digital Taunton at all, have we really? And it's like, it's nice to get back into it. And it's nice to kind of like be reminded of what life was like before all this stuff happened.
Yeah, well, you mentioned like, how long it's been. And we were trying to work out the other day what day it was. It wasn't the last day of the month. We didn't even know what month it was. I mean, it's
honestly, the days have just kind of drifted, and I guess it's just been different for everyone, right? But you definitely kind of feel it for the meetups and the tech clusters that work so hard in sort of curating a community. And then when this happens, obviously it's not kind of high enough on the agenda to kind of really factor it into your day to day, but you kind of do what you can, right? And you try and keep things going. And I guess that's what we're trying to do tonight. A little bit of an experiment. Live streaming has always been a big part of our brand, right? And that's kind of all to do with John. So it's cool to have you on tonight, John.
Great to be here. But like you say, April seemed to disappear. We've gone from March to May, and I don't know where April went. Do you know where it went?
I know, it's crazy, and and I think tonight is just a good example of us finally getting together again and just scratching our heads really and exploring what is possible when it comes to. I think a lot of people are asking this, like, how do you take your meetup, your community, and adapt it? How do we put it online now, right? And I guess we've all been kind of putting our heads together, and I know a lot of people are talking about this, and people have been messaging Digital Taunton and asking for advice, and I think we're still trying to figure out ourselves, right? Surely there's better ways in doing live streams, meetups, online conferences.
But I think, Shane, also, I think I don't know what you think, but the community as a whole has been phenomenal in terms of what everyone's doing themselves, live, online. The amount of great information coming out. To name a few, like Kate at ADPR and Paul from Word Gets Around. There's so many people doing really innovative things at the moment, and it's inspirational. It really is.
Yeah,
like you were saying, it's
I actually sort of a big shout out to Paul actually from Word Gets Around. I'm loving what he's doing right now. He's he's doing these like interviewing different businesses around Taunton and Somerset, just trying to do what he can to keep his brand going, to keep his community engaged, and ADPR are doing similar things as well. And I love stuff like that. I think it's really important, right? So what have we all been up to lately? What have you been up to, Jeremy?
Well,
how's sort of business?
Yeah, right. So first of all, a big apology, I think, sort of to you guys out there, because as Shane says, we have been a little bit quiet, and you know, you'd expect Digital Taunton, the clues in the name, right, not to be affected. But as Shane says, you know, we kind of, as you guys know, we're running this. You know, we're pretty much funding everything ourselves, and we're running it ourselves with kind of on a shoestring. And the energy and time has really been focusing on our own business. If I'm really honest with you, the first 6 weeks, kind of, well, as I mentioned before, on the last time we did, the first thing that we did was went into BCP mode, business continuity planning. How do we get our people out of our business as quickly as possible and turn our sort of 300 call center people into home workers? And we did that. And then the next stage was what I'd call kind of like sort of rescue, so to speak. So how's the business doing? Well, you know, here's the thing, right? We, as you all know, what I do, we do claims handling. But when people are living at home, okay, apparently you don't get burgled as much. And when you're living at home, you don't have these massive escape of waters because you tend to find them just before it happens. So guess what? Our claim volume's down. And not only is our claim volume down, you can't repair these claims, right? You can't do them virtually. So it's been interesting. But we've been working on lots of interesting projects to get around it. One of the things we have done very early on, which was really significant for us, as we partnered with a specialist video company, and we basically now, along with this partner that we've done, we've built our own tools as well, so we can we can calculate pricing on how to price up damaged property really quickly through some smart tools that we built. But this video technology that we've got now allows us to, with the permission of the customer, take control of their phone. It allows us to first of all, that will geostamp where the property is, so we know the damage that's been video streamed is at the property that they say it is. So it kind of we understand there's no fraud going on there. And we can take control of the customer's phone. We can annotate on the phone. We can zoom in. But crucially, we can actually ask the customer to walk around their room and we can take measurements. So what it's allowed us to do is actually, this bizarre world has actually enabled us to carry out surveys for insurance companies a lot quicker. We're now doing it in hours, not days. Oh, that sounded like a lot of feedback then.
I think that was Warner. Was that answering the phone, Warner, on the live stream?
No, there was people saying there's an echo, so I just went to test it.
Oh.
There is an echo.
But no, I mean, yeah, it sounds like some awesome stuff that you're doing, Jeremy. I love that. I love the idea of just like, we've got to use technology now to innovate, right, and pivot.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's that you know what, for sure. Any technical, if there's any views on how technology should be used, whatever's happened, everything's expedited now. Even if you take it down to the very basic format of what we're doing today, what people are doing every day, which is live streaming, how we communicate with our people. But it goes beyond that, right? You know, right now, as businesses, I think we should be looking at smart ways to automate, even if it's very basic smart ways to automate, even if it's like automating your invoices, just looking at fast forwarding any plans that we have on technology, because the two things that we know post COVID-19 is one, the economy is going to crash, and two, no marketplace or business will look the same coming out of it. So it's getting ready for that. So lots of challenges, loads of exciting stuff going on.
That's really cool. Really cool.
Shane, you're still concerned. Is there echoing?
No, there is a little bit. There's a few people on the live stream saying that I think it could be isolated to one of our microphones. and I'm going to say it's you, Jeremy. But I think there's a bit of echo. So apologies, guys. And actually just taking this moment just to say hello to people in the comments. Hey, Pam, Andy, Stewart. Yeah, there's a bit of an echo. I think it's coming from Jeremy. So hopefully when I kick Jeremy off this and I actually start talking and stealing the limelight and just kind of owning it, as I like to do, then hopefully that echo will stop. It'd be a good, be a nice example
of just sort of kicking him off, actually, wouldn't it? You know, and getting rid of him. But
before you do that, let me tell you an interesting fact, right? A couple of interesting facts which I found fascinating. So I apologise for the echo. Okay, so Microsoft Teams in the last couple of months has gone from 32 million viewers to clients to 44 million. Okay. Wow. I don't know if any of you guys got a house party, which is kind of like obviously not work related, but video, where you kind of join in. You can. It's like social media with a video camera. That's gone from 180,000 downloads to 2 million downloads. But the really interesting one is Zoom. Okay, so Zoom has gone from, in December, it had 10 million clients, and it's now gone to 200 million clients.
Crikey. That's just insane, isn't it?
And that's why we're here tonight, right?
Yeah, absolutely insane. Apparently, people are saying that on the Echo, it's better when we're all on a three-way split screen. So,
my guess has one of you got the volume of your laptop up? Because that could.
Possibly. Separate screens, all great when three together. So, it could be that have we lost John? Oh, John's decided to disappear.
Oh, lost John.
Hello.
I may have accidentally got rid of him. Could I do that?
You just killed John. What'd you do? Honestly, you guys are a liability. Honestly, it's not me.
No, I think that was me trying to do something with the screen.
Let's get John back in. But that's the beauty of this, right? We get to add guests and we get to take them away again. Oh, John's back now. Hi, John. Don't take it personally, but Jeremy just decided that he didn't want you hanging out any longer, and just decided.
I'll just go and get a coffee.
Man down. So, old Paul's on the case. Yeah. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Just singing your praises a minute ago. Apparently I'm echoing now. Jesus Christ. Well, we'll figure this out as we go. There's a lot of new tech going on tonight and stuff that we've not really used before. So I'm sure we'll figure it out over time. I think it's something to do with my built-in microphone, which I need to mute actually. And
just a quickie, what have you been up to? Because I've seen, on the other hand, I've said that, we've kind of shrunk in terms, but man, you're quite difficult to get hold of at the moment. You seem to be doing, I don't know, either UN work or NHS work. Well, I mean, just tell us what's on there, because
it's actually it's been it's been really busy for us actually. We've been we had a project that kind of kick-started early in the year that was meant to be something that was going to be happening a lot later down the line. It was a project with the NHS, and it was to help to create a resource of webinar and video content for those that are suffering with kind of gut-related conditions. And essentially what it was just a tool that we could use, that patients could use to kind of self-help. For some treatments, in fact, the kind of diagnosis or the treatment, if you like, is actually more sort of self-help and education. And in light with COVID, we had to expedite that project quite considerably and bring it forward. So we worked really hard and to get it out there and get it done. And that was really good, and it was really well received. And then since then, we've been working with lots of people that just want to pivot, right? They need, you know, I think very fortunately, I think digital and the internet is one of the industries that isn't directly hit. I think they're indirectly hit, obviously, because their clients are having problems and customers in the supply chain and stuff. But yeah, no, we've been really busy. It's been really good. And also we've been working on some stuff with you as well. Fancy chatting a bit about that?
Yeah, just a quick introduction. If no one's heard about it, which I've been peddling it a little bit on the social media sites. So one of the things that I was really conscious about as a business, we were out selling to our customers all the time, comms everywhere. And I just didn't want to be remembered as that person that was constantly selling. But of course, it's critical, right? We need to sell.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give something back to our community and to my industry community. And I thought one practical way is we're really fortunate. We employ a well-being coach. We employ a mental health England trainer. And we've got some really interesting people that work for the business that have done homeschooling, for example. So we created a microsite. And when I say we created, our friend over here with the purple background and the suntan, a fake suntan, because I've seen that's actually a filter on the camera.
Yeah. It's the orange look.
Create this wonderful microsite, and we've just aggregated all our information. So we've got videos, blogs, vlogs, all in one place. And there's about 30 odd pieces of advice on how to lead from a distance, how to do mental health first aiding for a distance, and tips and tricks on how to do things with your kids from homeschooling. So if you guys want to check it out, it's the domain name is loveourcommunity.co.uk. And also we're looking for contributors. We'll be uploading stuff there every week. And anyone else that's got anything that they want to share with us and the rest of the community, please feed it through to brilliant. Thank you.
So so here it is. I'm just cutting to the iPad because I can do that. I'll explain more about that later. But yeah, it's a cute little website, isn't it, actually? And the idea is that, like you mentioned, we want to curate the, articles, and we want people to kind of chip in and stuff. It's it's a helpful little tool, I think.
It's only been going for a couple of days, and we've had close to 1,000 unique visitors on there. So and some international visitors. So.
And what about you, John? What have you been up to?
Well, all my filming, which typically on a typical week, I'll be half the week going out filming. That's all gone, all cancelled.
Yeah.
And which was to be expected, I guess, due to social distancing. But good news is I was given some editing work to do. And you were talking about people having to adapt. And the company I'm doing this for, they normally provide training courses and coaching for people rehabilitating when they've come out of hospital, or when they become obese, or when they're giving up smoking. And normally that training, that coaching is done on a one-to-one or in a classroom setting. Well, this company, which is government funded, has had to quickly think of another solution. Of course, video was that solution. So they've all gone off, all these coaches and trainers, to film themselves in their own homes or outside in their garden. Cool. And they realized that it just didn't have any consistency, no professionalism to it as such. So that's where I came in, and I've been kind of making them look a bit smarter and consolidating them. So that's keeping me busy. And that contract, if you can call it that, has been extended. So that's keeping me very busy at the moment. So I can't complain, because, like lots of people, I just thought, well, that's it for a good few months. But fortunately, I've got work on, so can't complain.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's I think a lot of us in the comments and in our community, we've got a lot to be very thankful for, I think. And so let's see what Sunday says, and let's see what happens in the next phase, right? So thanks everyone who's joined in. Hey Simon, and who else have we got? A bunch of people on here. All kinds of people. So hello. Hey Tony. Oh, Tony from Cornwall. Tony's a good guy. He put on an online conference recently, actually, which went down really, really well. So So his
it looks like we've got from Cornwall to Essex. That's not a bad spread, is it?
Yeah. So Tony's looking for some top live streaming tips. So hopefully we can maybe, well, with our early mic issues, maybe not. Who knows?
I'm here as a host and also as part of the audience. I am the, if you like, the newbie, the novice out of these guys, as you might have guessed. I'm spending all my time on Teams and Zoom.
You're loving your Teams, you are.
You know, I'm joining webinars. So actually, I'm really excited, and I I've had a cheeky sneak preview at your slides, and I won't steal your thunder, but it's almost like half those slides are written about me.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. Maybe you're the test case for this.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason why I'm on here is like, to poke fun at me, but no, I'm really, really excited about this. Cool.
Cool.
Take it away, Shay. Come on, let's take it away.
Okay, well, let's dive in then. Let's kickstart off the presentation. Firstly, for for anyone that don't know, Digital Taunton, obviously we've been around for over a year now. I don't think we need to dive too much into what Digital Taunton is all about. I think most of the people on our group, on the chat right now are pretty well informed. So we'll dive right in. We've just let you know that in the top, I need to work my hands. In the top corner, we've got our little NHS reminder. So we'll be stopping. No, we'll be just doing some clapping. I'm going to be just doing some clapping in front of my screen, and if anyone wants to disappear for 30 seconds and clap out the door, or play a guitar or sing a song, it seems like every week it gets more ambitious, right? It's like every week you go from like hitting it with a drum, and then you got a whole sort of string quartet and all kinds of things. So we'll stop for that.
So Shane, as you start, I'm just reading some of these questions, and I hope you're good with me interacting as you go along.
Just dive in.
Questions. One of the questions Mike is asking about what webcams we're using. Clearly, Mike's talking about me. My webcam apparently is the I'm not sure I can say it because it's live the stream. According to Shane, the SHITT one built into my laptop, so that's where I can answer that. And my two learned experts over here, you've probably got a wang dangly doodah. Go on, what have you got?
We've got it all. I tell you what, I'm going to save that for a little bit later on, Mike, because I'll be able to tell you exactly what I'm using. And Jonathan, what camera are you using out of interest?
Well, I happen to be using my video camera, my Panasonic, but it's only because it's to hand, and that's what I have.
It's a big boy, isn't it, John?
Well, that's not for me to say, but it works. Right. It works well.
I really wanted to have a conversation about my hair and how it's just getting, but I've just realised it's probably a bit of not really the right people to have a conversation with, right? Because my hair, I've got enough hair for everyone. So that was like 5 minutes that I was going to chat about, and I realised it was just pointless.
Hold on a second. Oh no, I can remove you from the call as well.
All right, on that note, then let's just dive right in.
And just before you start, the slides will be made available, and note that we will send them through from on the DT newsletter.
Yeah, we'll send a copy of all the slides out, definitely. Okay, so in like literally 2 minutes, I think we're going to stop some clapping. But let's just kind of so hopefully you can all see this. There we go. So basically what we want to do tonight is I'm just going to walk you through very simple steps and break it down actually a bit of a journey and how we can make our live streams and our video calling and online conferences essentially much better. So we're going to look at the hardware, software, some tools, some tips and tricks. So hopefully that's all good and dandy. And obviously I'll be keeping an eye on the questions and the comments throughout the whole thing. So feel free to
to
shout them out. Jeremy will pick up the questions and we'll display them on the screen as well, because we can do that, and we can just keep this free flowing. I'm going to keep this. I want this to be wrapped up by 9 o'clock. I don't think any of us have got any interest in. I shouldn't cut to John when he's overly zoomed in.
I'm actually going to be taking a sweepstake, guys. If we think that Shane is going to be finished at 9 o'clock.
Okay, yeah.
Free pizza on Shane if he's finished at 9, right?
So put in the comments what time we reckon we're going to wrap up this presentation. For those that don't know, we're Digital Taunton in general, although I suppose I'm the blame, is that we aren't particularly great at our timings. But our in-person events are usually over 2 hours, right? But I don't think that really works for online necessarily. So we'll see what happens. We'll just see how many people sort of disappear after. And that was 20 minutes. I won't clap too loud. My wife's out the front going a little bit crazy, as she likes to. She gets well into it, bless her. Awesome. I love it. I don't know. It's one of those things I easily remember every Thursday. It's a cool thing to do. Although I think, Jeremy, you're in quite a bit. You're in like the sticks, so you're just clapping to yourself. There's no one around you that's going to hear you.
The dogs.
Yeah, the dogs can hear. The dogs can hear. Right. Well, we're already a good 20 minutes into this, so I just want to
let's jump in and see where we get on. So first of all, then, just starting things out, why me? I'm not a videographer. I'm an amateur photographer, I suppose, at best. Although I have the gear, I should dust it off and use it once in a while. And but as part of Digital Taunton, video has been an important part of our brand. It's something that I think some people kind of recognize, some people are inspired by. Other tech clusters look at Digital Taunton and are impressed by what Jonathan Warner in particular does with our live streams. It's a setup that we take very seriously, and I think we just really enjoy this stuff. We absolutely love it. It's really good fun, and it just means that we can reach more people. So it helps deliver on our kind of mission. Which is to create a really vibrant community, and as you can see here, this is a typical setup desk. Does this bring back memories, John? Are you missing this? It's something that I definitely miss. Although I've sort of recreated a little bit of it, perhaps in here. But yeah, it's like so through doing Digital Taunton and just through my own personal kind of interest, I've been so obsessed lately about, especially with COVID, about how we can do a live stream that's kind of better than the others, I suppose, to be fair. There's not a huge enthusiasm of just going, let's just jump on Zoom and share our Zoom feed. We were like, well, how can we add graphics? How can we add, sorry, thanks Aaron, I think I know why I'm echoing and I think I turned it off, so you just let me know if my echoing's gone now, would you? And so yeah, I've been really obsessing lately about live streaming and video quality and stuff. So hopefully I'm just going to pass on a little bit of what I've learned. I've still got a lot to learn. It's a process that we're all kind of involved in, but it's a lot of fun. So essentially, if you weren't familiar, so let's just sort of frame this for a second. If you weren't obviously familiar much with video calling in your previous sort of life before COVID, then thank you, Aaron. At least I know why there's no echoing now. So that's one thing I've learned in the last 5 minutes. Hopefully, as the rest of the night goes on, I'll learn a few new things as well. So
is that an apology? Because you two ganged up on me beforehand about my crappy old laptop.
In fairness, I think that you've still got a crappy laptop. I think the issue was that I had my main microphone on and I had my iMac mic on. So there was a bit of a double bubble. I think I've turned that off in all the places where I should turn it off. So you're not out of the woods yet, mate. Don't worry. So video is now a really big part of easy Andy, big part of our kind of lives now, right? And I think, you know, if you weren't familiar with video or comfortable with video calling, because I know so many clients of mine, they still do video calling and they don't turn the video on, and it's just because there's this, I don't know, people just don't like being on camera, right? But I think if you weren't familiar or comfortable with it now, you know, you're gonna be now, because this is like the only way to really communicate now. It's you know, remote working and content delivery over video is obviously just exploded. So, you know, why not make this the best you can possibly make it, for those that are interested in. You know, the thing is like, you know, it's no longer the other way to work. I know for some people, especially perhaps dealing with customers outside their organization, you know, doing a video call is quite a novel thing. Yeah, it's like, and then it's almost like funny when it's like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And are you on? Are you? And actually now it's the only way to really get stuff done. That the novelty is going to wear off. People are going to be like, yes, I can't hear you, you know, and it's going to get frustrating. And I think the way we present ourselves over video as well, you know, can be improved. It's like we all get dressed and we go for a meeting and, you know, we present ourselves in a way. And I think we need to get into the habit of perhaps presenting ourselves in an appropriate way over video where we can. And some of these things can cost a lot of money and some of them don't cost any money at all. I think what I want to talk about, who this is really aimed at, is if you're wanting to improve video calling in general within your team, some basic tips and best practices. And also for those that want to do webinars. So as a marketing activity, you want to sell a product or service over the internet via video, you know, or you want to get them in through a webinar funnel or something, you know, those videos in particularly, or you're offering consultancy or training, that I think as a business, you need to take your video a bit more seriously. And a lot of the stuff I've been seeing is not very good at all. So we're going to walk through some tips and tricks, show how it's done, some of the things I've learned, and show you a little bit of my setup that I'm actually using right now. And as I can cut here, I'm on the other camera, so you can see a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on right now. There is my main camera at the top, and we've got the microphone here, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing crazy going on. A lot of this has been done via software, to be fair, and I can walk you through some of these things if it's helpful. So back to the slides. So let's look. So this is not going to be how I teach you how to go live on Facebook. I'm not going to be telling you how to configure YouTube. I'm going to be talking about all the things that gets just before we get to YouTube, before, you know, behind the scenes, the signals before we get there, and the hoops it has to go through, and hopefully that's going to be of interest. So the typical scenario, that echo could have been when I jumped onto a different camera. Oh, bloody echo! You have to like cut it off on everything. Oh well, we'll figure it out. This is the typical scenario, right? So internal teams, you know, they use their mic, their laptops, their phones, they dial into either Zoom or Skype or Teams, and they have a call, right? Okay, that's fine. And then I think what's happened for a lot of situations is that they've kind of adapted that for an external audience. So if they said, okay, well, we do videoing internally, let's just let's buy the £40 add-on that Zoom charges you, and let's do a webinar, and we'll use Zoom to do a webinar. And I understand it's like the path of least resistance, right? I totally get it. And I think that there are better ways in doing this. I think people aren't. I think it's just a lack of creativity, and I think it's a lack of awareness of what tools are out there that can perhaps do things a little bit better, like hopefully we're demonstrating this evening. And also, people are going to their phones and they are, broadcasting to Facebook. And I see people like using their phone to offer training to their community or to their paying customers via a phone that links directly to Facebook or YouTube. And it's like, it's kind of a terrible experience. You can't even share some slides. You can't even, you can't share your screen. You can't add a logo, or you can't really do anything that's really kind of interesting or engaging. It's just very flat. And especially when you don't use additional hardware, the quality is often poor. And that's kind of what I just mentioned there. It is boring. It just is really, it is quite dull, especially in 2020. Essentially, have you ever wondered like how to add a logo or graphics to a webinar or a live stream? Ever wondered how gamers stream their computer games in real time that add crazy graphics and they have huge amounts of engagement? Or wondered how YouTubers get guests on their shows? How to do a live stream with more than one camera, just using kind of a bit of software and a couple of dongles. How to run video ads, how to layer over music, or in fact, how to stream to YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and LinkedIn all at the same time. So these are the things that we're going to have a little look at. So here's a little bit of a diagram, just kind of outlining the steps that I have gone through this evening, in fact, to get to where we are right now. So we have myself, step one. We've got hardware, software, and some things. We've got some kind of connection to a computer. We're then going through some software, and then we're going out to YouTube. So the path highlighted in yellow is kind of what we're doing tonight, but there's ways you can extend it. There's ways you can take it further, which we'll hopefully cover a little bit of. But if we break those stages down, because in fact, that diagram looked a little bit complicated to some people. If we actually kind of break that down into specific components, we've essentially got these kind of key areas, right? We've got composition, hardware, software, and then the kind of end result. And I think we'll attempt to kind of break down these things. So the first thing we want to look at is composition. Now, this step, in fact, doesn't cost a lot whatsoever. It's basically free. It's the things you can do in your surroundings, the things that you can, change in your physical space to just make things work. And it's that typical old kind of saying, right, is garbage in, garbage out. So the idea that you can have the best camera in the world, you can have all the lighting in the world, but if you're not really thinking about composition or your surroundings, you're really not going to get the best out of any kind of investments you make in kind of hardware and software. And here's some kind of examples, right? We've got the guy, and we've all been on these calls. I mean, I've been on these calls so much, but we got the guy with the tree over his head. Lovely. All he had to do was move the tree a little bit and it probably would have come across quite nicely. But all you can look at is the stupid tree behind him. You got the woman who's, the creepy lady in the dark room. I've had that before on a video call, where she's just looks like it's a scene from a kind of horror movie. And not particularly engaging, not very nice for a 9 a.m. call about an exciting new project. I'm sure, this person, if we make up this persona, she's an incredibly professional, good at her job. And he or she, comes on a camera, maybe with someone for the first time, and it's just like this really weird, badly lit situation. It's not really ideal. We got the guy here, he's sitting right in front of a window. And actually, a lot of people would think that might be a good idea, that actually sit in front of a window because, gets a bit of lighting, right? Well, actually, it just completely blows him out. It looks like he's gone to heaven or the next place. And it just looks really, really odd. So we have to think about how we can avoid that. This is kind of one of my favorites, and possibly the most popular, is that laptop users, they put the laptop down their desks, they angle it this way, and then the laptop is basically, looking right at them, right from the chin up. So you can see the bogies up your nose, you can see your three chins, and it just not even Brad Pitt would look particularly great at that angle. So it's something that little things, and a really, really good tip is like, just if you're on a laptop, just raise it up. We want to be at eye level. That's kind of where we want to be at. So as an interesting kind of example, I suppose, is that if you look at this right now, I'm not perfect. In fact, my iMac is quite tall. So I think the camera comes up quite high. I would love my camera a little bit lower. But essentially, we want to look at kind of being at eye level with the camera. I think one of the things on video calling is that it's so easy to get distracted with what's on the screen. And I know I am right now because I've got a lot of things going on. But ideally, you kind of just want to be focusing on the other side, the person on the other side, and what they're kind of experiencing. We've got, one of the good things is about sort of emphasizing and keeping an idea about background and foreground. Yeah, so in an ideal situation, you do want to isolate yourself from some kind of background. So sitting up against a flat wall isn't going to be an ideal situation. But perhaps, having a bit of depth between you and your background can really help, and just kind of give your scene a bit of pop, if you like. Those people really scare me.
We've got a question.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's Jara. So apologies if I got the name wrong. Why not use something like a switcher on your phone?
A switcher on your phone and tablets? Oh, yeah, I just saw that. I've not come across anything that can do what we're doing tonight on a phone. There might be the software we're talking about might be available on a tablet. But yeah, not sure if I've not come across anything that can be done with a phone, but I'm sure there might be. We're going to talk about a phone app in a bit, actually. So that might have some relevance. Jump into this slide. We all know this one, right? Absolutely awesome. I think this was literally sort of made famous. This is a thing what we've come. I mean, I'm a sucker for this. Okay, I'm obsessed with people's backdrops, because all of a sudden we're seeing a glimpse into people's personal lives, right? Work colleagues that we don't usually know perhaps much about. We're obviously now all having these conferencing calls and with these video calls, and it's like, and obviously, I run a remote company, and so I'm on video calls all day long. It's like what I do when you're remote, and my colleagues are remote and my clients are remote. So but now I'm having sort of interesting conversations with clients that I wouldn't typically have a video call with. And it is really interesting. Now I get to see like what, the dishes in the sink and the cereal bowls. And, I've really, I've seen it all. And it's really interesting, and it's something you should just be aware of, really. It's not hard just to kind of look behind you and go, okay, does this look all right? Does this look legit? Have I got a really distracting, like one of the kids' toys in the background that I could just move one side? Things like that could, really, really help and just up that quality just a little bit. So essentially, composition is about aiming for eye contact, raising your laptop up, raise it up so you're actually, smoothing the old chin out and looking straight down the camera. have a look at your background scenario, your background composition, and think about framing.
So think about kind of a nice bit of space around you. So, you're not really locked in really tight, and you're not, lost by being so far back. So something that just feels like you're having a conversation, having a conversation with someone across a coffee table. That's kind of what we're all trying to achieve, essentially. And the better we can do this, the more productive we are. I mean, it really does make a big difference.
So, like I said, find a way to put up some nice bits, perhaps, move some stuff around. If you're in a situation where I know people that don't have a lot of space and they, have a setup where, okay, I can't have a square room with a flat wall behind me, and there are some other solutions like a green screen. So an example of a green screen is something like this. This is probably a particularly expensive one by Elgato, because Elgato do make quite good quality products, but essentially it's just a green screen. I know, John, you do a lot of this green screen stuff with your clients, don't you? And I think this is a solution where you can basically, mask out what's behind you and put something like just a plain white background or a brick kind of background. I think the plain ones work the best. You see a lot of people trying to mimic like office environments and stuff, and it just looks really, really bad. If you're going to use a green screen, don't use the in-software green screens. I know Zoom gives you like the the green screen mode, right? And when I was playing with it, I don't think it worked particularly well. I think if you're going to go for a green screen, just go on Amazon. I think for less than £50, you could probably get a green screen. And then you can enable that in your software to render a simple white backdrop. And then all the clutter behind you can just disappear, right? And your clients will never know. As far as your client's concerned, you're just in a nice white room, and really, you're in your garage, right? So that's cool. And Stuart's just saying that he's got a wall-mounted version and he loves it. Really good idea, actually. Have something you can pull up and pull down. I think the one by Elgato, this one, it is £150, but I think why this is quite expensive is that it's got this built-in unit that kind of slides up from the bottom, like one of those pop-up banners. So it's something you can just like kick under your desk and just like whack it up when you want a cool. Maybe it's not like your day-to-day kind of, your colleague type call, but hey, you're just going to pitch this new project, to this big new client. And you're thinking, well, actually, I'm at my kitchen table and I've got just clutter everywhere. Actually a green screen could be a good investment. Something to think about, maybe. I don't have a green screen. I wouldn't mind getting one at some point. I wouldn't mind experimenting with it. Johnny, any thoughts on green screens? Any tips or tricks there? Anything you think about?
You mentioned Zoom. Actually, Zoom works extremely well if you use a green screen with it. So when you talked about the green screen mode in Zoom, when it gives you these crazy backgrounds like a space station and whatever it is, beach and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you use it with a green screen, and I've experimented, literally just popping a green screen behind me, no lighting on it, which you would normally have to do, and it works really well. So it is a quick win. And like you say, make the background simple. You don't have to use space station, make a brick wall or something professional and clean looking, but you can control that. You can use a JPEG, an image, anything you like as the background. But Zoom works well with it.
So, excuse me. So the idea though that you need a bit of hardware, right? Because Zoom can mimic a green screen without you actually having to have a physical green screen, can't it? And I think that's where it sucks, because all it does is just a bit of AI that tries to work out the shape of a person.
If you use it without the green screen, but if you put a green screen behind you, and you use that mode in Zoom, it works very well. I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to mess around with that actually. Just days where you just really want just a plain white background. You don't want people seeing your astronaut pictures or your toys on the shelves or whatever. It's like you just want just something completely neutral. It might be something to look into at some point. So it could be of interest to others as well. So I think that's kind of it for composition. I think we get the general gist of what that's about, is that you can have all the hardware in the world and all the software in the world, but a bit of composition, it's one of those things where it can go a long way. So worth looking at. So hardware. So what I've always read, I don't know if John will agree on this. I've always read that if you're going to invest anything off the bat, anything straight away to improve either your calling with clients or pitching or anything to do with video, is you always invest in your audio first. Audio is far less forgiving than, and excuse my echoes, audio really is less forgiving than video. People will quite happily, so it's been shown, watch a video where the actual quality of the video isn't particularly great, but people tune in and stay with it if the audio is okay. And you would agree with that, John?
Completely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
cool.
That's the first bit of advice I'd ever give, whether it's a live event like this or if you're just filming yourself for later on. Get the audio right first, then concentrate on the picture.
So let's drill into that a little bit. So from my journey so far, I've kind of come across the three phases, if you like, of, consumer, accessible, affordable mic options. And within each of these categories, you can go on long tangents, but essentially you get to these hard stops in what I think are these three different phases. So you've got your onboard mic, right? They're horrible. They come bundled with your laptop, or they'll come bundled with your phone, and they are obviously free and they're accessible, and they are what they are, right? Even £1,000 iPhone, which has a fantastic camera in it, the audio would not be very good. And where I'm seeing issues with onboard audio is particularly people like personal trainers or people doing yoga instructions and stuff. They're using very low fidelity kind of hardware, like a mobile phone, to engage with their audience, and quite rightly so. I still do believe that done is better than perfect. But saying that, I think if they were to use a mic for their phone or a mic for their laptop, they could get a much better experience. Now, so if you wanted to jump away from an onboard mic, so you're going, okay, I do a lot of calling during the day, and in fact, actually, I have been told once or twice that my mic sucks. Right, fine. The next stage is that you look at a USB microphone. So a USB microphone, there's one here, in fact. It's a Rode NTS USB microphone. It's actually a really well-built, solid microphone, and it sets you back for probably about £100, maybe a little bit less now. And what you get with a USB microphone is actually a real significant improvement. I used a USB microphone for quite a few years, and I think everyone should aim for having a USB microphone. Personally, I think if you can convince your boss and you do a lot of video calling, or especially if you're doing any pre-sales stuff, pitching, consultancy, training, get a USB microphone or a microphone that can interface with a phone. They're not fantastic when you start comparing them to the next phase up. But for example, they can be really good value for money. They're just simply plug and play, and you can be up and running with them. Literally, this would just be a USB that you would plug into my computer, and I would be able to start using it straight away. So one of the downsides that I experienced actually with a room like mine, which is just literally an empty white box almost, is that I had a lot of echoing, a lot of background issues. And that's because typically USB microphones are what they call a condenser microphone. And a condenser microphone takes sound from all around itself and can pick up on all kinds of echoes bouncing off walls. And so if you're in a well-treated room, a USB microphone could be a really good shout. But for less than £100, I really think that people should think about making an upgrade to a USB microphone. The next one up would be what I would, and if you want to get better with your USB microphones, you will hit a brick wall. The technology is getting better all the time, but essentially, if you want to up your game, the next level up is an XLR microphone. Now, the difference with an XLR microphone is it's more of a professional grade piece of kit. They're often more expensive, but actually some of them are quite on par with USB microphones. Where it actually gets more expensive with a XLR microphone is that you require some kind of interface. You require an additional box, if you like, where the microphone goes into the magic box and the magic box connects to your computer. So that's where it gets a little bit more expensive, because the preamps or the digital interfaces, whatever they're called, they can be maybe £100 to £150 or something like that. So it's a significant investment if you wanted. I would definitely recommend using an XLR microphone if you are wanting to record a podcast, or if you want to do any voiceover work, or if you actually live in a house that's just full of echoes and you're constantly getting sort of feedback that, you know, actually you sound a little bit ropey and whatever, and it could be that you want to make an investment there. So a couple of examples, some products that I've used. My colleagues use these products and quite highly sort of recommended. So from a USB point of view, Rode have just come out with an NT mini USB microphone. It's basically the smaller form factor to this one, the upgrade to this one. I think it would cost you about £180, maybe 150, I can't remember. But it's a really, really solid bit of kit, and something that could live on your desk and just could really make things a lot better. An example of an XLR microphone. So the one in the yellow, the one in the yellow border, that's the microphone that I'm using right here. So it's a Rode Procaster, and I've got that going into the Focusrite Scarlett digital interface, which is that red box you see on the screen. That's what I'm using. I've literally had this for a few days, so I'm still figuring it out, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I've had some good feedback so far that between my USB microphone and this one, there's a significant difference, but it definitely was a bit of an investment and a really good toy to play with. Another example is the Shure SM7B. This is literally considered like the industry standard, if you like, for professional microphones. Anybody who watches anything to do with Gary Vaynerchuk or the Joe Rogan podcast, you'll notice that these are the microphones that they're using on those shows. And many YouTubers are favoring the Shure SM7B. It's been around literally forever, and is considered. It's definitely got its pros and cons. It does require a lot of power, and it's about £480. And I really wanted it, and I was like, there's no way I was going that far. But it's about £480, and it can interface with a Focusrite Scarlett, like what you see on the screen, and it is it's a lovely bit of kit. And XLR microphones in general, again, when you go into these different sections, each one has its kind of like paths you've got to go down. If you go, you know, you've got dynamic microphones and you've got condenser microphones. But essentially, there's three key things to choose from. You either have your onboard audio, you have your USB microphone, or you jump up to an XLR. So hopefully that was quite simple. Honestly, if you did one thing for work and for your customers and your clients and your colleagues on a Zoom call or doing something on YouTube or whatever, just buy a new microphone. I think it would make a huge difference. And ultimately, if you can communicate clearer with your colleagues, maybe you'll get stuff done a bit quicker too. So lighting next. Lighting's a good one. It's before anyone makes an investment into a camera, I think it's always recommended to take a look at your lighting, because, you know, lighting can significantly make a camera look a bit better. And it's a lot cheaper than buying a new camera as well. So again, with lighting, there's different types for different reasons. The general rule of thumb, really, for USB webcams, is that, you know, if you're using a USB webcam, and we'll get to cameras in a second, you know, remove any harsh background lights. The thing is with USB webcams is that they need huge amounts of lights. The sensors in a USB webcam are not anywhere near comparable to the developments of the proper cameras, if you like, and so you do need to fill them with a lot of light. And I think what a lot of people the mistakes a lot of people make, in fact, is that when they're given a USB microphone and then someone says, "Oh, here's a light," and, you know, they stick that light right in front of their face. And for a USB microphone, that's probably not the way to do it, because these USB microphones, they kind of auto expose for you. So they try and get the right level of exposure. And when you stick a light right in your face, it just blows the whole thing out and you look like you're in a dark room. I think the recommended kind of advice for those with USB webcams, or in fact onboard webcams, is that try and improve the overall lighting in your room and not focus on a spotlight directly at your face. Whereas if you're using a mirrorless or an SLR camera, I think the spotlight kind of approach, which is what I'm kind of doing now, is more favorable. But if I had a USB webcam right now, it wouldn't look very good. Other ways you can do it is things like, and there's different types of lights. You've got highly diffused lights through a softbox, like the one on the left. They're very, very good, but you need a lot of space for those, right? They're really chunky. I used to have one, and it took up this entire room. So I actually went for more of an LED light. They are a lot smaller. They are sort of quite energy efficient, and they run a lot cooler as well. But actually, just general lamps in your house, by using them in the right way, you can actually make a lot of improvements. And a really good tip, perhaps, if you've got one of those kind of desk lamps that a lot of people have, don't think you should point them at yourself. Point them up in the ceiling or point them up at the wall. Let the light bounce off the wall and therefore kind of diffuse it a little bit. And if you're using a USB camera, it should hopefully sort of elevate the overall lighting in the room. I think that's what you kind of want to go for when you're dealing with the USB type webcams. Any thoughts on there, John? Anything you want to add with lighting? I'm not an expert on lighting. I don't know a lot about lighting, to be honest, but I know what I've tried and I've been through a lot of trial and error.
I think everything you've said is perfect. At a very basic level, just make sure you've got more light in front of you than you have behind you. And that you gave that example about people being in front of a window or lamps or any other lighting behind. What happens is the cameras get confused and you end up with this halo effect, or sometimes you end up with a silhouette. Just make sure the light you have, whatever you've got, is in front of you and not behind you. That's the first tip I'd say. And then yes, if you've got the money, buy some decent lighting with diffusing panels and all that stuff. But even if you haven't got any of that, just have it in front of you. Make sure you're lit more than the background.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I've gone through all kinds of different lights, and
I think you might better see on how a minute. Oh my I lost my feed to my camera. I thought I might have done.
But yeah, on my iPhone, which might have died. You might be able to see the light that I've got right here. I've just got like a panel light that's just literally focused on my face right now, which might be dialed up a bit too higher. I'm learning as I go. But this, this is kind of correctly exposing my face for this kind of camera. If I had a different kind of light source, a different kind of camera, it probably wouldn't look very good. And I'll demonstrate that in a second. So,
Shane, can I just dive in? We just got a couple of questions before we move too further on. Andy Larder, when you were talking about the mics, was saying, what range do you get from these mics? I.e., do you have to be within a meter or so to be heard clearly? I suppose that's a question to both of you guys.
Yeah, so I can answer that from my point of view, Andy. Here's a question on the screen. So this particular microphone is what they call a dynamic microphone. It's really, really good at isolating just your voice. The downside to that is you have to talk incredibly close to it. Like if I start pulling away now, you're literally I'm not even half a meter away, and you're probably really struggling to hear me right now. And so this is the kind of microphone that you really get up on it and you talk right down into it. If you're looking for something that you can come a bit further away from, I would definitely look at like the wireless mics, like the lav mics, which I think John's even using tonight. John,
I'm using a little clip-on mic. Funnily enough, it's not wireless. It's got a 5 meter long cable connected to the camera. But I think the first point, and you kind of said it there about proximity, is have the microphone close to you. That's the number one rule with audio, is to get the sound right. If you ever see a film and you see a behind the scenes shot, you'll see a boom mic, and they're trained. They get them very, very close. They're off camera, but they're very, very close. And that's the idea, really.
Yeah. So if you want to be, Andy, if you want to be kind of, further than a meter away, then I would definitely look at maybe just something on a longer lead, but something that's, get something that's right up on you. Because especially if you're using the kind of USB microphones, the further away you are, it's gonna prioritize like your echoes more than what it's actually going to prioritize you. Really, it's they're not that forgiving when it comes to competing with all the echoes. So lighting is a really tricky one, but I think the key is just to try and elevate the room in general. For the majority of us on this, and the people be listening to this would be most likely with either USB webcams or onboard webcams. Elevate the light in the room and bounce some lamps that you've got for what was I going to say?
Diffuse
allow
light.
for the light to bounce off. Sorry, I was just distracted by the lovely Pam. What was the cost of the mic? So this particular microphone, Pam, the one I'm using, which I'll just go back. The one with the yellow border. This microphone I think was about £170, and then I had to interface that with a digital interface, which was about another 100. Don't tell my wife. I hope she's not listening. Another 150 pounds. So the XLR league, if you like, is significant. But, I'm under the impression that this kind of kit, and John, I know we've talked about this in the past, this kind of kit can last for like, this kit can last for like 10 years. It lasts, right? If you buy, you can, I know you said, John, you've had kit that you bought like 10 years ago and at the time it was obviously a significant investment, but it's just lasted forever, right? And I'm hoping that my stuff will hopefully do the same.
I'll probably give my age away, but the boom mic I use for my video shoots, bought in 2001, still using it, so yeah, it does last. I would say there's one other tip. I don't think you've mentioned it, but a lot of this software like Skype and Zoom, I'm not sure about Zoom actually, but certainly in Skype, and we came across this earlier. There's an option to have the software automatically adjust the volume level of the microphone. Always turn that off if you can, because what happens is when you stop talking, it raises the microphone level and you start to hear horrible background sound. Just look for the option in the audio and video settings, automatic volume level, turn it off and put it into manual, and just find the setting in the manual audio level that sounds good to you, and then it will keep it there. It won't start playing around with it. And the other thing, if you don't mind me saying, one little tip I gave when I gave a little session on using your phone was these little clip-on mics you can get for your phone. You can get ones for like £20. They're actually pretty good because, I mean, you might not see mine, but it's clipped in here. This one's more than £20, but you can get them for about that. And the point of these is that they're really close, and they're not sort of cumbersome. They're not in your face, but they're just off camera. So I find them a great cheap solution if you haven't got the budget.
Yeah, no, there's some really nice wireless lav mics going around, and just looking at the comments. So Tash has just mentioned. Tash has got the Rode NT Mini, the USB mini microphone. She only got it last week or so, and about £100, I think. And Pam, just to reiterate, this particular microphone is called the Rode Procaster. And I got it on Amazon, and I think I paid about £170 for it. But I needed to interface that with a Magic Box, a preamp or a digital interface, they're called, and that was about around the same sort of price again. So if you're wanting to do more YouTube stuff or conferences and things like that, it could be a good shout. So that's microphones, and it's the most audio, microphones I think is the most important thing. It literally is more important than buying a camera. And I think you wouldn't regret it either. You won't regret it. The matter, especially for people that are on like video calls for like an hour, and that's a big part of my life. And I get a little bit frustrated when the person who I'm talking to isn't really, matching the kind of quality that I'm attempting to provide, because you want to hear, and understand and process and do stuff. And my poor ears. So back to lighting. So just on my last slide about lighting. So if you've got a USB webcam, we talked about how to optimize your light. If you've got a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, which we're going to talk about in a second, focus on diffuse lights, focus on having, like John mentioned, light actually in front of you. Like I've actually got a big panel light right here and it's just hitting my face and quite hot. Might need to look at toning that one down. And try and separate yourself from the foreground and the background. So I've tried to be a bit cute tonight. I've got a little blue light that's just popping off the wall, a little LED light that you can buy. You can make all different colors, and anything that tries to attempt to separate me from my background, it creates a level of depth. And it's the difference between something that is what some would consider amateur and some would consider ever so slightly urging more towards a professional kind of setup. And I know I've got a long way to go before I can call myself that, but I feel like I'm making steps. And that's kind of it on lighting. So I think cameras are kind of the most fun stuff. And I think, it's easy to get carried away with cameras. But again, I feel like there's just three very distinct camps. Very, very simple shopping for a camera to stream with or a camera to do video calling with. You've literally only got sort of three categories of options. And you've got the onboard webcam. Again, they are terrible. It just is what it is. And they're built into your laptops and your computers. I mean, I've got an Apple iMac. It's a good computer. And the quality of the webcam is atrocious. It's embarrassing. I'd prefer just not to have one at all. And it's the same for sort of many. It doesn't matter what brand of laptop you have. The webcams are pretty much the same. The next jump up from that is essentially a USB microphone. And again, what I would personally aim for, again, if you're on calls, if you're selling, you're training, you're consulting, just get a USB microphone, and you can get one for less than £100, and it would make a significant difference. They aren't particularly great in low light, as we've just talked about, but they are very, very good value for money. You don't need any gadgets or gizmos to make them work. You just plug them in and you're off. The next jump up from that is a significant one, I won't lie, and that is the DSLR cameras. Now, these are sort of the more pro quality cameras, but what I think is really interesting is that so many people are like amateur photographers or professional photographers, and they have these cameras already. They don't even know that they're capable of being webcams. I have a really lovely camera, but I didn't buy it for streaming. I bought it for my photography. And then I realized I could use it for streaming, right? And so it was a really good day. And there are many different types of cameras that qualify to being a webcam, and I'll go through them shortly. But there's no doubt about it that having a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, or just AKA kind of a proper camera, is the kind of next level up. For some reason, I don't have my feed anymore from my iPhone. Battery's probably dead, or it's just crashed. But lost that. But I can't really show you my camera now. But essentially, it looks quite chunky. And they are typically more expensive, and they do require some extra hardware to make it work. So, but the differences can be quite significant. So here's a little demo now. I think this will work.
So this is 3 different cameras all on right now. Excuse me. So this is an example of an onboard camera, a USB camera, and my DSLR camera, all giving me the same feed live in the same lighting conditions. And I think it's quite clear to see that there's a significant difference here, right? So the camera in the middle, I'm hoping you would have assumed this already, but maybe not. The camera in the middle is the one built into my iMac. I'm not in focus. I'm not sure what it's trying to focus on. But it is, but then again, if I'm on a call and it's a quick call, not a big deal. I'm not overly interested in video, but I've got a nice microphone plugged in. You know what? I think that the person I was talking to would appreciate that we would come off that and we won't be exhausted by not trying to hear each other, and it would get the job done, right? It just doesn't look very good. The one on the right, or my left or right, I'm not sure how it works, but the one that's whiter, so that's my USB webcam. It's a Logitech H920, which is kind of considered like the industry standard. You can get them for less than £100 if you can get one, because everybody in the world's buying one at the moment. I've had it for many years, and it is a typical HD 1080p USB webcam. You plug it in, you don't do anything, it just works. And essentially what it can do is just provide something that's fine, right? The downside to this being a good experiment is that I'm obviously not really exposing correctly. As you can see, if you just beam a light in my face right now using a USB camera, I'm just kind of blown out. It's not an ideal situation. Whereas for my main camera on the left, as you can see, you know, I'm kind of as I would expect to hopefully look, you know, in a room on a Thursday evening with a bit of lighting. But there you go. That gives you a nice comparison there of kind of nice comparison between 3 different stages of cameras. And I think what we should all be aiming for is a USB one at least. So any questions there at all? How's that all looking? So Andy's just mentioned about he's found another solution that's in between USB and a DSLR. Yes, Andy, I totally agree. We're going to talk about it in a second. So hold your horses.
I've got a question, actually.
Yep.
For us amateurs rather than you professional, you mentioned about phones. I mean, you know, I've got a £1,000 mobile phone, and the camera quality on that seems pretty smart. So if I shoved the microphone on, which I've got, I'm not using for tonight. How would that work? You know, certainly from a not forget the mic, but from the phone perspective.
Yeah, it's totally doable, and I'm a little bit annoyed that I actually have my camera plugged in, and I won't leave my chair now to mess around with it, but I did have my camera plugged in, and using as a webcam, and we're going to go talk about this in a second. Let me just try and activate it actually, because I think it'd be really good. Okay, it has. So yeah, I'm going to talk about it in a second, about how a
Whilst you're doing that, I realise I made a cardinal sin. I was one of those people that I'm sure people could see up my nose then, or my eyeballs were too close to the screen.
Oh, you doing that again? Right. Not good. But yeah, we're going to jump onto that in a second, actually. And Simon's just mentioned that they use, I'm assuming at the Heritage Trust. Hey, Simon, haven't spoken to you in ages. Looking forward to catching up. And yeah, he uses a C920 HD. It's exactly the same camera that I'm using right now. And I have been using up until a few weeks ago, until I switched to my main camera, my new camera. And yeah, they are really good. And they are literally considered the kind of workhorses of USB webcams. They actually are very good. And actually, here it is right here. So this is the camera that I was just using in my demo here. So this is the camera. And yeah, it's fine. It's really good. If you can get your lighting and your composition, you know, those 3 little modules, if you get them sorted out, I think you've got a much more improved experience, and people there'll be no noticeable negativity around, you know, your video. It would be totally passable. And here's an example of I'm losing track of all my slides. Of a mirrorless camera. Yeah. So this actually has a missing graphic on here, but essentially, when it comes to USB options, I can save you a lot of time and effort. Don't shop for anything other than Logitech. Logitech are really the only people that make decent USB webcams, in my opinion. I know I haven't tried all of them, but I've tried a fair few. And the best you can really get with a USB webcam is a Logitech Brio. It's called. It's about £300, and it's a 4K USB webcam, and that's about the ceiling limit really when it comes to USB webcams. So only really go for Logitech stuff. Unfortunately, right now you're going to struggle to find any Logitech webcams. Everybody is sold out. Everyone is sold out of them, but they are very good for USB cameras. So the next thing is the mirrorless camera, and when it comes to mirrorless cameras, there's a whole range of DSLRs, mirrorless cameras you can choose from, and I'm actually using the Canon EOS R. So it's a full frame, very high quality camera, and I didn't buy it specifically for live streaming whatsoever. It was just a lovely little coincidence, and but what it can do is that there's many different ranges of SLR cameras, and actually there's a bunch that can be that you can buy now on eBay secondhand. You know, you could pick up a Sony A6000, I think it is, that has the capabilities that you need to make it a webcam, which I'll talk about in a second. And you could probably pick that up for less than £200 on eBay, and it could be something that could mimic the sort of quality that I'm kind of sending out right now. Now, annoyingly, there should be a graphic here, so apologies for that. But essentially, actually, I can get it up on my. Let's get it up on my iPad. Oh God! So.
While you're saying that, can I say something?
Yeah, definitely, John. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's repeating what's been already said to some degree, but if you get the lighting right, even if you've got a poor camera, it will help a considerable amount. What happens is if the lighting level on you is about the same or not as bright as the background, the camera doesn't know where to focus, and that's why often you become out of focus. It's trying to focus on wherever it thinks is the subject. But if you isolate yourself by making the light on you brighter than the background, the camera, even if it's the one built into your laptop or a low-cost webcam, it will more than likely focus on you, and that will improve things straight away.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. No, I was just trying to grab. So this is kind of for some reason my my graphics weren't loading up on my slides. But essentially, what we're using, the magic ingredient, if you like. So getting back on track, the magic ingredient that you need to connect your DSLR camera to your computer is something called a cam link, and this is the website here. It's made by a company called Elgato. I think there's a few, but essentially it's a capture card. It's essentially what can take your camera feed and translate it into like a USB HDMI outputty thing, and it can go onto your computer. And with this little USB gadget, which is about £100, it's what we use for the digital Taunton live streams, and it works very, very well, I must say. And it's what I'm using right now to connect my camera. And with one of these, you could plug a camera straight into it, and you'll be well on your way. So something to think about there. If you would like to use like a proper camera, you're going to need to use another little dongle essentially to make that all come together. But they're relatively inexpensive and they'll last for ages, and they're really, really good. So if you're going into that category, you're going to need a capture card. Now, the thing you need to know about if you're decided to want to look at or check your camera that you've already got, if you could actually make it as a webcam, and it has to have something called clean HDMI out. The best thing to do is just to Google it, Google the settings that your camera, the spec that your camera has. And essentially you're looking for something that can provide a clean HDMI feed out of your camera and then into something like the cam link. The second thing you really need is your camera capable of being on all the time? So the way most cameras do it, unless you've got a professional grade camcorder that you can just plug power straight into, like I'm sure what Jonathan's got, you need to have something like, they call it like dummy batteries, where you can basically put a battery into your camera that's got a power cord coming out of it that then you plug into the mains. And that's what I'm using right now. So my camera is powered all the time. I just need to switch it on and I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about batteries or anything like that. And that's kind of a really key thing, to be fair. So something to check. But if your camera can do a clean HDMI out and can handle continuous power, then you are onto a winner, and you could start sort of rolling with that. So there are some other hardware options. So this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about, John. Like, what options we have for phones, right? And I know, Jeremy, you were kind of talking about this as well, right? And it's like, you already have a great camera, and you can see. Let me just sort of flip
over to here. You can see here, right? This is actually coming out of my phone. So my phone is actually now working as a webcam. I look really sweaty on this camera, but I'm now coming out of this camera. This is my iPhone 11, which is an amazing camera, and I'm just using an app. And that app is wirelessly transmitting into my app on my computer, and I'm getting a signal. I wouldn't recommend doing it over Wi-Fi, but you can easily plug in you could plug your phone into your computer directly, and you can use it as a webcam. And actually, this is a really, really good idea, and something that I would encourage you to look at if you have got, a decent smartphone in your pocket. So I really
like this approach. I've only used it a little bit, and essentially it's all to do with an app called Epoch Cam. So Epoch Cam is there's two versions. There's the HD version, which I think is £8, and then there's a free version that's just non-HD. And I think it's got loads of ads all over it. So just spend £8, have a play with it. And a lot of people are using their phones to go out to Facebook, right? But they could be using their phone to go out to Facebook, but interfacing through some software, which could give them the functionality that we're dealing with right now, adding some logos, cutting to different scenes, right? Introducing guests. You could still do that potentially via your phone if you interface it. And that's kind of what this little graphic sort of represents. So Epoch Live, I think there's one or two other apps, but this is the one that I've been come across the most. I know Ben, my colleague at work, he did a whole half an hour talk on a couple of weeks ago, a WordPress conference thing. And he used his iPhone the entire time with this app, and nobody knew any different, and it actually worked really well. So definitely something to think about.
Coming out of this right now, the quality looks pretty good. I think the light is a bit harsh, so for my phone, but you would dial it down and optimize it for my particular camera. But as you can see now, you can see the camera that's on here. It's a bit of a beast. It's got a 24mm lens on the end of it, which can give me a good depth of field and give me that silky, blurry background
that I kind of get, as you can see behind me right now. So Epoch Cam, definitely look into that, and hopefully, Andy, that might answer your questions, and Jeremy, answer your question. Have you got any thoughts, Jeremy, on that?
No, it's really smart. Yeah, I didn't
definitely worth looking at, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, lots of things actually. I've been scribbling away.
I can easily give you a shopping list. I'm so good at spending other people's money. It's definitely a skill of mine. So that's something that you could look into. For those that and Andy's recommended MyCam and IVCam with the virtual soundboard. I've not used those, buddy. So maybe something to look at. I know. I've actually wanted to look at some soundboards, have some special effects and some audio and music coming in at some point. I think that's one of the next steps for me in this little journey of digital Taunton shows online. This is something I wanted to talk about. I think, John, might have been what you were alluding to a little bit earlier. these things, I think they're called the Rode Wireless Goes. These are amazing. And Andy, I think you're talking about using it for football things and training. This is a really, really good solution. It's a mic that costs about, I think they cost about £150, but it's just essentially a wireless mic. So one end connects to your iPhone, and there's some really good YouTube tutorials on how to do that, but it's just a lead. And then the other end, the transmitter either clips onto your sort of lapel, or you can actually connect a lav mic into it as well. And then, like what John's wearing right now, you could have that on your kind of lapel like that, and then that interfaces on a little clip onto your pocket. And the range on these things are ridiculous. And if you wanted to use your camera, your iPhone, paired with these, either live streaming or not live streaming, if just you wanted to record a vlog or something out in the park, the quality is really, really good. And for a little gizmo that you could just throw in your back pocket. So Chris, hey Chris, good to see you, buddy. Chris is just saying that he's got the wireless Goes, and it's really, I don't own a set of these. I really want a set. I just needed an excuse to buy them. Not that I need many excuses these days, but I've been told that these are just real quality bits of kit. So there's a really good recommendation there. If you're looking for something really lightweight to interface with your mobile phone, not a bad bit of kit there. So another option, so if we're talking about other hardware options right now quickly, the other option is the GoPro and the Media Mod. So you can live stream with the GoPro. Apparently there's really sort of hacky ways to do it with some of the older GoPros. But if you've got one of the newer GoPros, which I've got somewhere, and you buy the new Media Mod for it, then you can essentially interface that with a HDMI cable, which then using a cam link, you could put that in, and apparently it works pretty well. I don't think I would recommend buying a GoPro and the Media Mod just to do live streaming, because I think combined you're talking like £500, and I know for £500, I think for less than £500 you could probably buy a really good secondhand mirrorless camera with a good lens where you could recreate this kind of look, and you could probably have some change left over for a microphone as well for that sort of money. So I wouldn't recommend a GoPro for live streaming, but if you did have one, I bought one about 6 months ago because I wanted to just film the dogs all the time at the beach. I have bought a Media Mod. It's arriving in a few days, and I'm going to play around with that because for £79, I've actually got like a B camera as opposed to using my iPhone. So the idea for my future live streams is I might have a GoPro as a B camera, which I might have overhead looking down, maybe doing some scribbles, and I'll have my A camera, which is pointing at me like it is right now. So if you do have a GoPro, good to make you aware of that, really. So that's the hardware. So just to recap, we've looked at lighting, we've looked at mics, we've looked at phones, cameras, and the things that interface with those. So for audio, you need to interface with a digital interface or a preamp if you're using an XLR microphone. And if you're using a DSLR camera, you'll need to interface with the cam link. So the next thing, and this is the thing I'm probably the most excited about, but we're going to have to wrap it up because I busted my 9 p.m. kind of threshold. But we all knew that was going to happen, right, guys?
Does that mean it's pizza's on you then?
Yeah, pizza's definitely on me. They're all here. You're going to have to come and get them, though, and sort of be risk of exposure to the deadly germs that I might be carrying.
6 or 7 months to get your pizzas, right?
yeah. So let me just tell you about how this all comes together, okay? This is actually the most important bit. It's the software. The difference between what I'm doing tonight and what professional streamers are doing compared to people that are just clicking go live on their phone or clicking go live on YouTube and streaming with a camera is you need to have some encoding or streaming software. There's quite a few of them on the market, but many people I talk to, it's interesting how they're not aware that this is even a thing. And for Digital Taunton, when we were started live streaming, this was all kind of new to us. And we were still figuring it out. And actually, since we've gone into quarantine, I think as a team, we've collectively kind of built our knowledge up on live streaming. So if we ever go back to in-person events, or now we're taking the show online, I think we'll have some better software. But there's essentially two that I would recommend looking at. There are a few, but if you wanted to just look on YouTube and have a play, if you're a Windows user, I definitely recommend OBS Studio. So it's a free piece of software, and it's the industry standard, right? It's like everybody on YouTube and all the gamers and all the streamers, they're all using OBS, and it's really good. I mean, it's not the prettiest of interfaces. I mean, it definitely looks like an open source bit of kit, and that's not detrimental to sort of the open source community, but it's very functional. It's got levers and pullers, and it's all kind of everything is where you want it. It's available for Windows and Mac, and it has this really good plugin architecture, so you can do lots of things with it. Or if you've got a solution, if you've got a problem, the chances are that someone's made a solution for it, and there's a plugin for it or an app for it. So it's very modular. And honestly, if you watch a YouTube video, watch a YouTube video about the intro into OBS Studio. Within half an hour, you'll know the basics. You'll know how to create scenes like I've done tonight. You'll know how to cut between different cameras, and you'll know how to invite guests on. It's actually not that hard. The other piece of software that I recommend is what I'm using tonight. And it's, if you're on a Mac, it's only on the Mac, unfortunately, and it's called Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live does everything that OBS Studio can do, and vice versa. It's very optimized for the Mac. It's very Mac-esque. It's very pretty. The interface is quite nice. It's very modular, and there's loads of floating windows and stuff. And it just works really well. And I just kind of sort of gravitated towards it. There's two versions of it. There's a free version and there's a paid version. I think the free version means that you can't invite Skype guests, but the paid version you do. So I'm using that one tonight. And it can do things like you can, stream out to your different platforms. But the point is that this is the software that brings it all together. This is the software where you add your graphics and animations, you create your scenes for different cameras and graphics. It can handle multiple audio and video feeds like I've been showing tonight. It can connect to your iPad. So at the moment tonight, I've got my main camera, I've got my iPhone, I've got my iPad, I've got two other cameras that I use for that demo, and I've got John and Jeremy on, and we're having a ball, right? So the software is all making that happen. When you have this software in place, it's that software that connects to YouTube and Facebook. You don't go directly to YouTube and Facebook. You put this in front of it. And what that means is that you can do all those cool things, and things like one of my personal favorites is having things like the ability to see comments, right? I love the ability to just show comments on the screen. And this has just come through from Chris saying he finds OBS a bit hardcore. Streamlabs, yeah. Thanks, buddy. Streamlabs is really, really good. It's kind of built on top of OBS, a little bit friendlier. I haven't actually had a chance to look at that yet. All the kind of geeking out I've been doing is mainly around Ecamm Live, but definitely Streamlabs, I think it's on Windows. Definitely recommend taking a look at that one as well. So essentially, this is kind of what it looks like. This is what Ecamm looks like. So I didn't want to share my screen with you tonight because I didn't know if it was going to work very well because it kind of hides windows when you go live and stuff. But essentially, this is kind of what the interface looks like. On the left-hand side, you have all your scenes, like exactly what I've got tonight. And then you have overlays, which you can switch on and off. So you can add a graphic and take a graphic away, or you can add a video, take a video away, and you can do that throughout the entire broadcast. And it also gives you things like how many viewers are online and all your comments on the right hand side. And that's exactly what I'm seeing right now. Everything you're seeing here is kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing my big picture at the front, and I'm having all these little windows around me. An example of what OBS looks like. This is OBS. This guy's having a good time. But essentially, it's a little bit simpler. There are some reasons why I actually like OBS. sometimes all the floating windows in Ecamm Live is actually a really bit overwhelming and gets lost. Whereas this is just one app, everything's in one place. You can fade and transition between scenes. You can easily input different images, assets, animations, videos, all kinds of stuff. It's really fun to play with. And the cool thing is, right, is that you can install this. It's free. And you can connect to YouTube, which is also free. And you can be live streaming in a private area that only you can see. And you can just be live streaming to yourself and just playing around with these things and testing it out. And that's all I've been doing. And I have kind of like the feed on my iPad coming back at me. So I get to see what the live stream looks like and tinker with it, without, messing things up, in the hope that when you actually do it for real with a whole bunch of people, that nothing goes wrong. And well, I haven't got it perfect, but we're getting there. So that's kind of what OBS looks like. So essentially, like I just mentioned, OBS or Ecamm or encoding streaming software lives on your computer, and it's what brings everything together. It's what we're using tonight to bring in our guests, Jeremy and John, via Skype. Skype's an interesting one, but there's a reason for that, and maybe that's a conversation for another day. It's just the other communication tools don't really allow for this interfacing. Skype does. And it's brought in all my videos and clips and ultimate cameras and microphones, so it works really well. Now there's only kind of one more kind of step to this, really, which let me just. I'm not really sure why my slide isn't coming on. Next slide. A minute. That's why I have to drag this out the way. Okay, there's a little bit of a spoke too soon on the old issue with the slides. Let me just bring this one in again. Sorry. And but essentially there is one more bit to this puzzle that I wanted to just kind of go through, and sorry. Oh, I love live streamings. Right, hang on a sec. So, you having a good night, Jeremy?
You know what? Actually, I've learned loads. I don't know whether I should be able to. I don't know whether I should say that or not.
It's just I just have to jump through these slides a minute. For some reason, it just didn't want me to go any further. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just getting tired in the fact that we've gone on a bit too long.
I know Paula was asking for these slides, but I absolutely, I know I've got these slides, but I'm definitely checking something out.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have no idea what I was doing there, but essentially the next slide, I think it was just the way I exported my slides, so it was a bit of a mess up there. But essentially there is one more piece of this puzzle for those that are interested. And essentially it's kind of like, so you've got this software. So this is like your home, this is like your base camp, right? And the next step is that, how you distribute it. Now, if you're using something like OBS or Ecamm Live, you can distribute to kind of one place. You can distribute to YouTube like we are right now. But if you actually connect that to another thing, you can actually distribute to multiple places at once. So those that want to have like an online conference, something to that effect, you'll be able to stream simultaneously to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, whatever your poison is, and that's kind of using an additional software that you plug into. So the two that I've kind of been looking at so far, but I think there's a bunch of them, is Restream.io. So Restream would allow you to connect to OBS or to Ecamm Live, which is our sort of base software. It can connect to Restream, and then Restream will then broadcast it for us across all the different channels. And this is something that we might look at for Digital Taunton if we think that that is within our strategy, that we actually want to spread this across all the different platforms. I think it's a great way of like having like an event or a festival, like a digital festival where you want to be everywhere. You could argue that from a marketing perspective, it might dilute your kind of your audience, and actually there's value in just building a community in one place, like YouTube, for example. But there are tools now that will allow you to distribute content across all platforms, and actually that could be really fun. And I'm sure for one of the upcoming Digital Taunton events, we'll do that, and we'll have everyone on Facebook as well as YouTube. And the cool thing about this software is that it can bring in comments as well. So where we're like having comments on screen, we can have comments on screen from Facebook, from YouTube, from Twitch. So that could be really fun and worth looking at. So that kind of finalizes the talk, really. So 20 minutes over, well, standard. But essentially what we've got here is this whole journey made up of these very modular parts. And the thing I think is really interesting, and the key thing to take away, is that these are all modular, right? You don't have to make improvements across the board. If you just make improvements in a few small places, like you decide that you want some interfacing software like Ecamm Live or OBS, and you want to improve your audio, they're two things that can make you just talking to YouTube versus having a live stream with good quality audio and being able to add in graphics and all kinds of stuff. So, or for example, just upgrading your camera and improving your lighting could significantly change the way in which you're coming across online or on video. So these are like, really modular components. But if you were to bring this all together, essentially that's what we've done tonight. So tonight we've attempted to look at composition. We've got a nice environment here. We've improved our audio and video. We're interfacing that with the cam link. Then the laptop has the Ecamm Live software or OBS software. And then that software is connecting directly to YouTube. And that's what we're doing tonight. That's exactly what we've done. Yeah, it was a little bit bumpy in places and there's a few things to iron out, but essentially this wasn't all that hard. And we've got 3 people all on the call at the same time, right? All hanging out together, all adding value. And it's an example of how we can all make our webinars a little bit better, make our live streams a little bit more interesting. The next thing we're going to be looking at is inviting guests, right? So anyone in the in the chat tonight, and going forward, you'll be able to dial into our live stream. So using Skype, if you've got a Skype account, you'll be able to connect to us on Skype, and you'll be able to join the live feed. And that's definitely something that we're going to look to do next time. So next time in the comments, if you have a question and you want to ask it with us on screen live, then all you got to do is just dial into Skype and connect to the call, and we can have you on. And I love the idea that that's done with free software. It blows my mind, and I think you can have so much fun with this, and it's definitely worth looking into. And thanks for Chris and Stuart for asking some questions and stuff. Stuart looks like Chris has actually done some stuff with OBS, so definitely good to have your input as well, Chris. Thank you. But yeah, having lots of fun with this, and I think this is an example of kind of where we're taking Digital Taunton, especially now the realization that it could be 2021 until we're actually getting together in large capacities again for an in-person Digital Taunton event. So we have to take the show online, right? So these are the tools that we're going to be looking into and hopefully perfecting. Stuart said he's just got an A10 Mini. I like the A10 Mini Pro. They look really good, and he actually has a cam link going spare. So yeah, go. Stu's selling a cam link, and he's right. Cam links have sold out everywhere, and Stu's selling one. So yeah, could be useful. So just to recap, focus on composition first, then audio. Aim for at least a USB audio and video setup if you can. Especially if you're working with clients and colleagues and potential customers. Aim for overall room lighting, not focus unless you're using a DSLR. Then have a focus light on you if you're using that kind of camera. There's some awesome options with camera phones, especially the Rode Wireless Go. I think they're awesome microphones, and you can really move around with those, and you can do gym workouts and PT workouts with just these kinds of mics clipped to you. I see a lot of personal trainers doing sort of workouts these days, and the audio is terrible, but just with a little mic on them, a little wireless thing connected to their phone, it would just come across so much better. OBS and Ecamm, they're free to use, so just YouTube the tutorials. There's so much. Especially for OBS, there's so much on YouTube. Everybody's recording a webinar and a video on how to do OBS live stream, because everyone is jumping on this right now. This is the time when everyone is looking at webinars, live streaming. Everyone's doing this right now, so I really recommend it. And Stuart, you mentioned the A10 Mini Pro. Yeah, I'm really interested in that bit of kit. So for Digital Taunton, we use the Roland VHD1 mixer. Basically, a mixer is something that can take all of your inputs, like videos, all your camera feeds, and you can actually have a desk with buttons, which is probably what you see in the movies, right? And they've got buttons where you can switch between feeds. And yeah, A10 Mini Pro is a new fancy one on the market, but it just looks amazing, and might be something I'll be looking at. But we do already have the Roland, which does work very well. So fun times. Right. And then also just let you know about the software that's available, Restream.io and Streamlabs. They allow you to distribute content to multiple platforms. So I definitely want you to just make you aware that these kinds of tools exist, and you could hopefully play around with them. Most of them are free to use or have trials. And that's it. So that's all I kind of wanted to talk about. Hopefully some of this was of use. I think there's a lot that can be overwhelming when it comes to video and audio gear and stuff. And I think there is a reason why professionals call themselves professionals. I think it's a real skill that you have to learn and develop over many years. But I do also believe that the barrier to entry to all this stuff is becoming lower and lower. And with resources like YouTube, there's so much stuff. If you have a small business and you want to start talking online more, or within your company, you want to stand out and make your videos look better than all your colleagues. If you just want to come across that much more professional, I think there's some really simple to use equipment these days. And like I said, everything's all phased out. So you've got phase 1, which is on board, phase 2, which is USB, and then third, which is the next step up, be it a DSLR camera or an XLR microphone. So yeah, that's me. But yeah, any thoughts, guys? Any closing remarks? I hope we've enjoyed it. Sorry about the issue with the slides. I think that was a bit of a weird one, but
I made some notes. Can I?
Oh, cool.
Can I be 1 minute with a few things? Do you mind?
Yeah, definitely.
There's one thing I don't think you mentioned, but I think one of the biggest wins you can have with talking to the camera is to look at the lens. And often when you're using your webcam on your laptop or even your phone, you tend to look at the screen of the other people on the call, and what happens is you're looking away. So if I look at the screen now, I'm not looking at you,
and I'm guilty of that. I am guilty of that myself. So yeah,
be conscious and look into the lens, whether it is just the little one on your laptop. It has a better connection with your audience. That would be my first tip. See, I'm looking down now, and I'm losing you.
Yeah.
We've talked about microphones. The other thing is about portrait and landscape orientation. If you're using a phone, all of the video today on this stream has been done in a landscape orientation, and you've obviously chopped us out just to get 3 of us in the same screen. But if you're using a phone, if your audience is on a phone, then there's nothing wrong with going portrait. But if the audience is likely to be using a laptop or a tablet to watch it, and they're going to be watching it that way around, try to put your phone the other way around. It's quite distracting. Even on the news, you'll get guests where they're using a portrait video and they're having to blur off the sides. Just turn the phone the other way around. I think that's quite a good tip. And finally, if you're going to be streaming and it's an important business stream, have a check about your wireless connection and whether it's better to go with a wired Ethernet connection in your office if your computer's connected to the wired router rather than the wireless, because I found that is the weakest link, is the wireless connection. And I've I've been involved with live streams in hotels and various other places, and you can have all the best kit in the world, but if the wireless goes down, you're stuffed. So if there is a way to connect to the wired connection, if it is in your home, then you can connect your laptop direct to your router, and it's just more of a fail-safe, sure thing. And there's more stuff, but we're running out of time, so. Yeah.
No, it's good. No, I'm really glad that you're able to join, John. I think it's made it, having your expertise to back this up, I think makes this whole thing a bit more authentic. Because I am, I'm just exploring.
You've done a great job tonight. Absolutely.
Well, amazing. I like anything, right? I think if you really are interested in something, you'll naturally, hopefully, one day become good at it. And I'm hoping that that's the direction I might go, because I absolutely love this stuff. I'm fascinated with it. It can be quite expensive, I must admit, but it's really, really good fun. And if you can apply it to some sort of business context where I am trying to, where, I think there'll be some kind of return on this, doing this through my business or just making DT better, it would be worth it. And I love this stuff. And also, a big thank you to everyone in the comments tonight and everyone watching. Really, really appreciate it. Stay with us with Digital Taunton. We've definitely got kind of more to come, right? We're going to really hit Digital Taunton hard, aren't we, Jeremy? And make a big go of this.
I just kind of wanted to wrap it up from a non-geeky, non-technical perspective, because we all understand who the geek is and who the guy with the technical knowledge is, and it's definitely not me, right? So so from a DT perspective, I think this is really important, and everything you've said is just what you'd expect anyone providing this sort of service would do. But if you look at a business like myself, which is not necessarily doing webinars all the time, but we're doing I'm certainly doing sort of webinars internally and doing a lot more video conference calls. And actually, I'm restricted sometimes due to my insurance clients. They dictate the kind of frame that they want to work in. So if they want to work with Zoom, we work with Zoom. Yeah. But actually, so if we take it from a non-geek perspective, actually, there's so much I've learned here. And even getting ready for this live stream today, as well as I do, you've spoken to me many times. And I've been up in my attic room with my wonky beams and my poor background, and I haven't really cared too much about it. But tonight, I've taken your advice. I've got the lighting right. I've got my bookshelf behind me. I've made everything symmetrical. And even without spending any money, we've cleaned it up, haven't we? And it looks
100%,
so much better. And the message I would say to anyone who's listening, who is kind of, from my perspective, who's maybe less geeky and isn't doing this for a living, okay, is that, what, this sort of semi-lockdown is probably going to exist for the next 6 to 18 months. Okay, this is kind of the new norm. So actually, there's some great baby steps we can all take, even if this isn't our world, to actually just make ourselves, present ourselves so much better. And I'm going to check out some of this stuff. I mean, I don't think I'm going to go the whole hog straight away. We've got you to do that for Digital Taunton, but for my own business, I've got to tell you, it's been fantastic. I really feel like I'm looking forward to my next call tomorrow. So it's been a pleasure. And Jonathan, thank you again for your time.
Good to be here.
But advice, it's great to see you.
And I think over time we need to play with the format of this, right? Because I think we are going to start doing some regular shows now and having guests on and speakers on and stuff. And we need to figure out what the format's going to be like, right? So that's going to be interesting, and how the tech works with it. Like just getting guests on, I think, has been one of the biggest challenges to overcome. And thankfully, old Skype is actually a kind of leading contender, right? Who'd have thought? I had to reinstall Skype again. I haven't used Skype in ages. But it works really well. So I'm really glad about the quality of the call, apart from when you kicked John off, but
All right. No
right.
problem.
Well, we're going to sign it off now. I actually don't have any closing slides. So thanks for everyone participating.
Because of the lag.
You are sorry?
Don't close it off yet because of the lag.
Oh, that's right. Ben did tell me about that. And thank you. And follow along on Twitter and Instagram. And Digital Taunton has been a bit slow over the last few weeks, but we all had good reasons. We all had to deal with our own situations. Now we're starting to form a bit of a routine now, and we've got lots of new kit to play with. We'll be doing this more regularly, so hopefully you'll be seeing our faces more and more, and hopefully can kind of support and add a bit of value and, I don't know, solve some techie problems or digital business problems, whatever. Could be fun, right? Yeah. Cool. Right, we're signing off now. Right.
Cheers.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks, everyone in the comments. Thanks.